104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio.
Yes.
Dark Side of the Stream, episode 127. Call me
127.
Miss Cleo. Yes, my pick this week. And a very interesting documentary you can watch. It was on HBO Max. I believe it came out sometime last year, and it tells the story of Miss Cleo. Online, or excuse me,
no,
pay
this
per
is
call
pre.
minute. Yeah, before
pre-online.
pay per call minute service psychic. Now, before we get into this, I watched it with my wife, and while we were watching it, she stops down at one point, looks at me, and goes, "You guys can't do the voice." And you know what I say to that? Call me now.
Hey, man.
Call me now. Because
Hey,
first
man.
of all,
hey, man. Well, that's part of the documentary.
we're
Is the
not
controversy about
being
the voice.
malicious here. If you watch a documentary, literally for like 1 minute, every person that is interviewed in this documentary does their own version of "Call me now."
Yeah, call me now.
So, did you ever spend any money on a 1-800 number back in the 90s?
No, I don't think I did. And I was trying to think. I know there was a sports betting hotlines.
Ooh,
I know
that's more your
There
scene.
was psychic. There was sports betting hotlines, and there was sex lines.
Yeah, or meet singles. The singles one, the ones that always crack. I mean, the psychic ones always crack me up. The Billy D. Williams, the Miss Cleos, whatever. Those ones always crack me up. But the ones that I like the most sometimes were like the direct local singles lines, especially where I grew up in Cape. Because I mean, I was partying and doing whatever I should have been doing when I was
younger.
younger.
Pick up the phone, they just connect you to some randos.
They would be like local like singles, and you kind of think of like an early version of like misconnections on Craigslist.
Or it's also an early version of like
Tinder.
They have the Tinder. Yeah,
I know.
Fish,
but those
Grinder, right?
Because they always crack me up. Is they were like always playing those things like late at night. I'd be watching Star Trek or something, and all these commercials like just built up my adolescence. But yeah, watching
that was when they would run. Would be late at night,
and that took me back. I mean, watching all those commercials and how this played out, and who was at fault and what was real and what wasn't. There's a lot more to it than just some possibly Jamaican lady.
Like I said, these were the hustles. You'd answer the want ad, you'd get hired, and I think even somebody I knew really close to me did
work for the psychic hotline.
They send you the little thing and like a little question sheet. All right, so this, that, and then whatever their response is, you would jump down to the next. This is what I'm feeling. Like a cold reading type thing, like these magicians do,
Yeah, and again,
keep them on the phone.
It's a racket. The first 3 minutes are free, but during, like they explain, the first 3 minutes they'd spend like getting your information,
and then
where you live,
bam.
all that stuff, and then as soon as you wanted to ask that question,
what a great
that's
hustle,
when the timer starts.
What a great hustle!
But we can actually talk about some of the people that were behind this and the calls that they took, and then of course Miss Cleo next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. .7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 127. Call me Miss Cleo. So this documentary, of course, is about Miss Cleo and the psychic hotline or whatever the hell they wanted to call it.
It's like about the business, but it's also about her.
It's also about her. So what do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about the business? You want to talk about her?
Well, the business. Let's start.
Let's start with the business. So basically, she was working, I guess, as a PA for this. And they had a woman that was doing it. And then they say that the woman they were going to place her with was just like awful. Just awful. And so here comes Cleo and does this Jamaican voice and that she's like a voodoo priestess and all this stuff. And they're like, you're perfect.
Blew up.
And then they tell her what to say. And then it just snowballs and snowballs. I mean, it was, it was satired by the Chappelle Show, Mad TV, which, by the way, the chick from Mad TV's in this documentary. Yeah. Who would have thought that's how she turned out?
Right.
I mean, tattooed neck down.
Oh,
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. But yeah, that was a sight to see. Not to say that I don't, I'm anything about tattoos. I'm pretty much the same. But her, I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. But anyway, the other thing that was interesting, like you mentioned in the last break, all these people that they had on this that worked for this, like, because you call in, you wouldn't actually, because I think she said she only took calls for about the first 6 months.
Yeah,
of
they
doing
would
this.
allude to you could get Miss Cleo, but you were getting some other
you were getting some other guy like me or Jay sitting in our apartment.
And they'd say, oh, Miss Cleo's in the other room and now she's busy. But I get a strong feeling what you're needing here.
I'll ask her real quick and then I'll come back and tell you. Keep them on the phone. Keep them on the phone.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Let me go find her. Yeah.
But none of these people were psychics. None of these people had any kind of like, extrasensory perception or whatever. It was just some guy, like you said, that answered a want-ad that was like, can you take calls? And after all these years, all of them felt guilty. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
they all.
I don't think they should really feel that guilty because I bet some people just somebody to talk to.
You're right. You're right. But one of them, to argue that point, one of them did say, it does kind of suck because all we should have done and said, look, ma'am, you can get all this help from the free community health center.
Yeah.
So in essence, yes, they are paying for someone to listen to them, but it sucks that at that point
giving somebody
in the
advice
world or history, they could have just went to the free community health center and had a conversation.
Listeners can call us and say, hey, my man's cheating on me. What should I do? You got 2 psychics right here. They'll tell you what you should
tell you, we'll give you all the advice in the world. But essentially, that's what it became. It was just an advice hotline. And they said that was what it was. It was just some people wanted someone to listen to them about their problems, what they should do.
And you would think Miss Chloe, being the face of it, she was making money handling.
Oh no, dude. And even the caller people that were taking the calls, she said on the low end, it was like 14 cents a minute. The high end was 25 cents a minute. Do the math on how many calls and how many minutes you got to be on the phone to actually make some money. It's crazy.
The guys at the top were making the money.
They were the ones making the money, and they would end up being sued. And we could talk about that next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. .7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 127. Call me Miss Cleo. So before we get into those at the top that controlled this whole business model and end up getting sued because of it, let's talk about Miss Cleo. It was interesting to see where she came from, because she has this vibe that she in the documentary in an interview, because she has since passed from cancer a couple years ago. They had an interview with her about 2012, I think it was. She's claiming she's a voodoo priest,
right?
She trained in it.
Background's a little sketchy.
She has an altar,
iffy,
all this stuff. But then when you hear the story, she was just some chick from LA that ended up in Seattle. She started working in the theater. She started writing plays.
A performer.
And one of her characters was this Jamaican voodoo priestess named Miss Cleo. And that's kind of how this whole thing was born. Also to note, one of the actresses involved with her, because I guess she would put on the production, would get paid to do it on the production, and then it was up to her to pay all the actors and actresses. And guess what? She got paid and just dipped out. No one ever heard from her again. And then eventually, years later, she pops up on infomercials, late night TV, and she's Miss Cleo. I bet those actors and we're just like, what in the hell is going on?
That's probably what some of our friends think when they turn on the radio.
Oh yeah, I know, right? That's probably happens a lot, actually. So she starts this whole thing, and I have to give her credit, because you do get the sense that she does want to try and help people, or at least her friends and family considered her to be.
That she had
like when you look at it all and you step back and you look at what happened with this stuff in Seattle and this whole Miss Cleo thing and how it went on, you're kind of like,
seems kind of scammy,
They blame it on trauma. She had a rough go of it, whatever, and this was kind of a thing that she used to protect herself. But she also, I guess, had another kind of personality named Max.
Yeah,
that would shut
somebody
down,
did say that she did have multiple personalities,
which is weird. But again, I don't think
you could. I mean,
I don't think it's like multiple personalities in the sense that, like all of a sudden I'm talking to Mike and then I'm talking to Jay and then I'm talking to,
that's what the one lady was alluding to, though.
But I think it was more of a coping mechanism. Like other people would just use that sometimes when they need to just like fight back and they can't do it themselves. So this person comes out to do it. Maybe it's a different form. But I did want to say something, and that is I have visited with a actual voodoo priestess before. and it was wild. It blew my mind. In New Orleans, oh yeah, like it wasn't like the tour, like you go into the shop and then hey, you know what I'm talking about.
They
were all over
real deal.
So we went down there, and I was down there for about a month, and I mean I was like, it was very, very weird. Did you have any kind of instances like that when you were in there?
I don't think so. I mean, I know we went into the voodoo shop when we were living in New Orleans,
but you never did.
It was more of a touristy thing. It wasn't.
Dude, this lady, I mean, she felt like she was 1,000 years old, dude. It was a really weird scene. I don't want to go into specifics, but whenever she was talking about that, I could remember that, and just how like it was almost, you kind of felt like it was an act on one hand, but the other hand, you're like, is this legit? Like, is this really real? And I think that's kind of what Miss Cleo kind of brought to the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It makes you question it, which is what magicians do,
They do. Hey, that in itself is a great insight.
It's you like magicians always say, for those that believe, no explanation is needed. Or it's
because there's the faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
they make you question what's going on here?
Yeah. And then you got the skeptics, of course.
Yeah, but if it helps somebody, then right. Maybe who cares then what the vessel is to get there? If it ends up helping somebody, maybe somebody made some good life choices.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Whether it's Christianity or voodoo, same thing. If it helps you, it helps you, as long as it's not hurting you or anybody else. We will give this our I don't know how we're going to do it. Probably 1-900 ratings.
Next, tarot cards.
Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. .7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 127. Call me Miss Cleo. So inevitably, there would be a lawsuit.
Yeah.
First in the state of Florida.
And she's like, hey man, I'm just a hired hand. I'm not making any money on this deal.
And inevitably the owners and all their ruthless dealings did fess up and say, look, she was just the spokesperson. Yeah. She didn't come up with this stuff. She was directed to do it. It's on us.
She went into hiding for a long time and just kind of hermited out. And then now she
came out as gay.
Yeah, and then
was an activist for gay rights in Florida.
She had a good life afterwards, it seemed like.
It seemed like she had a really good community of friends, really good partners up until her death, which she passed away in cancer, I think, in 2016. Yeah. But she left her mark on a lot of people, and you could tell when they go through all these people in the documentary.
Yeah, they really
they loved her. And like you said, whether it's like when it comes like magic.
Yeah.
You believe, and that's, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to, it's like I always say, I'm never going to discredit someone for something that makes them happy. You know what I mean? Just because it doesn't make me happy or I don't believe in it doesn't mean that's awesome that it makes you happy. So inevitably, was it real? Definitely not. But at the same time, a very interesting story that will never happen again, because I highly doubt we're going to have late night infomercials talking about 1-900 numbers
those days are
anytime soon, unless it's for like a pharmaceutical company or something.
I think now it's all OnlyFans.
Maybe we'll go backwards. Yeah, I don't know. But either way, I would give this documentary probably 3.5 1-900 numbers.
I'll go 2.5.
Yeah,
nothing special. It was an interesting story, but
it was. I mean, and again, hey, man,
nothing blew my mind.
I saved you from having to watch like 8 episodes. Yeah. So, hey.
Yeah, it was short. It was very, very short. Yeah,
very short and quick. So, if you stayed up late watching those, definitely check it out.
I've got, I had a couple choices here, man. So, I've watched a couple good things lately. But since we kind of went down some UFO rabbit holes, it led me to documentary has the stupidest name in the world. So, don't write it off.
I can't wait. It's going to be, I can't wait. It's going to be just like the Bigfoot documentary.
Don't write it off for the name. The name is Investigating the Truth, UFOs, but it's a brand new one on Hulu, and it's all government officials talking about this. So it's not some crackpot saying they saw a light in the sky.
With the crazy hair
it's
from Ancient Aliens.
It's all those pilots. It's actual factual data. Congressmen talking
investigating the truth. UFOs.
Yeah, it's brand new, and it's what they're talking about in government these days. So it's all hot off the press.
All right, update your Hulu
Jay Stevens
subscription.
With his ear to the ground.
So we'll go back into watching the skies, because Jay loves the UFOs. As always, you can stream these live.
Probing.
He's ready for it. Facebook Live 9 a.m. every Thursday, or YouTube. You can stream it online, 1047thecave.com. Download it as a podcast on our 104.7 The Cave
app. Call us, man.
Or just listen to us live every Thursday 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. during Jay's
we'll
show.
Give you life advice too.
Call me now.
417.
Anyway, I'm Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you we watch movies
documentaries
so you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.